Miami Beach, Florida. I'm Nicholas Upchurch. Welcome to Believe. I'm so excited you're with us. Wow, I want to change your life. I want to help you to succeed and find your own truth, to make sense of all of that, what's going on out there in the world and the universe. We're going to talk to an American hero on the show today, and I'm really pleased about that. There's so much going on. Of course, our website is www.believe.love. Our YouTube is youtube.com/Believe Loves You. Join us, participate, leave comments. iTunes listeners, our site is believeitunes.com. It'll take you right there. You can subscribe. And Android users, believeandroid.com. We cover 5 major categories on Believe. It's money and business, true success, world news, health and wellness, and our universe. And again, you make this community possible. There's so much going on. I wanted to start out with something positive because we had a great tragedy in the United States, the Las Vegas shootings, and we had an episode I did with Natalia Menacall where we tried to find the good in these big tragedies. Like, what can we find that's possibly good? And so, there was something that came across my desk that I'd like to share, so we're going to do that now. Let me play you a clip from Sarah Sanders Huckabee, I believe her name is, or I think she just goes by Sarah Sanders, who is the White House press secretary.
One man, 29-year-old Sonny Melton, had traveled from Tennessee to Las Vegas for the concert with his wife, Heather. When the bullets began raining down from above, Sonny shielded her from danger, selflessly giving up his life to save hers. They'd been married for just over a year. Others risked their own lives to save people that they had never met. Mike McGarry of Philadelphia laid on top of students at the concert to protect them from the gunfire. They're 20, I'm 53, he said, and I've lived a good life. Lindsay Padgett and her fiancé, Mike J., fled for cover during the attack and immediately returned to the scene with their pickup truck to help transport the wounded to nearby hospitals. Gail Davis, who was attending the concert with her husband, said she owes her life to a brave police officer who instinctively served as a human shield, protecting her from harm. Sadly, multiple police officers, both on duty and off duty, were among those killed or injured. But what these people did for each other says far more about who we are as Americans than the cowardly acts of a killer ever could. The Gospel of John reminds us that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for a friend.
And I just thought that was an absolutely beautiful thing that she went over. And it's sort of above politics. You hear stories of course, this thing is going on. Somebody's raining down bullets. And you hear stories of older gentlemen covering up younger kids because they're 53 and the other people are 20. Police officers instinctively becoming human shields. Honestly, it brings right now tears to my eyes because to me, if you want to look for anything good, and that's what we're trying to do with Believe, we want to sort of bridge that gap between, people want to be spiritual and meditate and we want to be peaceful and happy, but then some realities out there, there's a lot of tough things going on. So in order to kind of harmonize that or to try to shine a light on that in a way that we can try to send love to the toughest things, we're just trying to find anything good in some of these things that are really things that people find tough to deal with. I know I did. So I saw that clip, and I'd love to know your thoughts because I thought it was so beautiful, acts of true heroism. And again, we have an American hero on our show tonight. And before we get to our guest, there's a lot of people also, of course, concerned about their well-being, their business. People are asking me all the time, I've done millions of dollars in sales in a year. Not this year. We're building this company, but I've built online companies that have been quite large, and I've been on different shows. People are asking me, how can I get started? I have an idea, I need to build a website. So we wanted to show somebody a tool that they can try for free. And also, if you become a customer, basically it helps our program. So you're helping us and perhaps you're helping yourself. So I want to introduce you to that program right now. It's called ClickFunnels, and how you get to it, how you get your free trial is you type in www believe.love/click free. That's believe.love/click free. And our YouTube viewers can see it now. And ClickFunnels, what it allows you to do is to create sales funnels without having to worry about coding, website design, or website building, hosting, all of those things that can keep people from getting started. So when you need landing pages that look good and you need to drag and drop, and you don't want to have to worry about getting a web host and all of these things, a checkout. You have to not only have to get a web host, then you have to get an SSL certificate, and then you have to go and you have to get a cart. You have to get a cart. You have to get a web host. You got to upload your website, and you got to make sure your website converts and looks good. You have to get an opt-in form. You have to connect it to your email provider. So what this does is this puts it all into one basket, and you can try it for free for 14 days, and it helps the broadcast if you become a customer, and it really can save you a lot of time and money. So to get there, again, I'm going to type it in again, www.believe.love/click free, and we're going to find more of these tools for you because I want to help you to succeed, to build your business, to make more money, and also to be happier. And it is my great, great honor, along this theme of heroism, to introduce tonight who I think is an American hero. There's so many American heroes that you never hear about. You don't hear about people like Dr. Royal Rife, who came up with the Rife machine, in USC, a USC doctor in the 30s. And I have one of these. You can get one at spooky2.com. It's from China. I actually have one, and I've used it, and it uses frequencies to either kill parasites or heal. You don't hear about Nikola Tesla as much as maybe we should. You don't hear about Dr. Patrick Flanagan, and I've benefited greatly from his work. And this is another gentleman who is right along those lines, an American hero. And David Adair is an internationally recognized expert in space technology spin-off applications for industry and commercial use. At age 11, he built his first of hundreds of rockets, which he designed and test flew. At 17, he won the most outstanding in the field of engineering sciences from the U.S. Air Force. At 19, he designed and fabricated a state-of-the-art mechanical system for changing jet turbine engines for the U.S. Navy that set world record turnaround times that still stand today. This is a really, really smart guy. I mean, this guy is unbelievably smart. He is a world-class presenter and keynote speaker, seminar and workshop leader and consultant. His presentations include little-known facts from his involvement within the space program, commercial technology development, films, and the things he has seen at Area 51. Now we're going to show his website before we bring David on. It's called, and actually he just came out with a new DVD that I really recommend you grab. And his website right here, YouTube viewers can see it, americasfallfromspace.com. Really cool site. We're going to get into all of the things on this site, specifically Raise the Shield. That's a great tab. But I want you to check out this Buy DVD tab because this is a DVD. I saw David on Gaia.com with David Wilcock, and now he's made his own DVD that you can buy right here. So I really recommend people pick up his DVD, America's Fall from Space, at americasfallfromspace.com. So it's my great honor to introduce David Adair. David, how are you, sir?
Fine. How you doing?
Good, good. We've talked, and man, we were having some fun yesterday. We were lounging. I loved it. We got our fake technology straightened out, right? The technology they let us use.
Yeah.
David, give us some notes, if you don't mind, on your background. You have a really interesting background.
Oh God. I don't even know where to start. Well, let's see. Like Steve Martin, I was born a poor black child. Now I was born in I was born in Welch, West Virginia. I was in District 10 of the Pocahontas coalfields, and needless to say, there wasn't a whole lot of technology back there in 1954 in a in a coal field. But there I was, and by the time I was age 7, I was working on quantum physics differential mechanics, and that's kind of odd.
How the heck did you figure that out at age 7? Where did that even come from? Do you think that is?
When I was 6, I started reading books in the 600 brain in the Dewey Decimal System. Nobody remembers anymore. Called bibliographies. It's a catalog index of how you classify books. And I was in the science section, and I was sitting in the corner reading. I was sitting on the floor with the books, and Mrs. Hunt came by. She was a librarian, and she looked at me. She said, "Are you reading those books?" And I said, "I wasn't trying to be smart. I just said, well, there's no pictures in them." And she said, "Well, how many of them have you read?" And I went, "All of them." And she went, of the entire science section? Yeah, I read them all." "Well, how much do you remember?" "All of it." And she goes, "Really?" So she reaches over top of me and grabs this book, and he pulled it down, and said, "Well, how about this one?" And I looked at the title and went, "Oh, yeah, that's a singularity on a constant stream of polarities." And she said, "Well, let me flip to a page." And she did, and she asked me, "What's it saying?" And I said, "Well, what's the page number?" And she goes, 52. And I go, "Oh, and in a quantum theory flux with a singularity, it starts off at the event horizon, which is basically the disc-shaped opening of a black hole." And she said, "Stop." And she closed the book, and she said, "You got every word right." I said, "Yeah, don't everybody do that?" She goes, "No." So she said, "Well, would you like other books?" I said, "Yeah, there's a whole list of them. I just never going to get to find them here." So she told me to make a list out for her, and I did. And she told me not to tell anybody about this because she was going to allocate some resources for me. And she started ordering books, and over the years, she ordered about every book I wanted. It was about 70 books, and so it gave me a really good starting point. I read about everything that we had back in probably about 1961, 62. I was getting pretty well caught up with what state of the art was at the time in areas of quantum physics dealing with the breakdown of atoms and fusion containment areas, which is what I was mostly interested in. And one thing she asked me is, I said, "Yeah, not tell anybody." She goes, "Right, but also don't let people know you can do this." And I thought, "Well, they find me odd?" She goes, "Yeah, you're not going to fit in too well." That was really excellent advice. So I followed her advice, and I really kept that side of me pretty quiet. Nobody knew I was doing all this stuff. And from there, I took off, and it led up till by the time I was age 12, I started building rockets because the rocket medium, meaning the rocket, the way it's designed, was a perfect tool that I could use to do diagnostics to test out the theorems on my hypothesis of my algorithm to see if I'm anywhere close near containment fields for fusion containment. And what data would
What
pull
is
off
fusion containment? I need to know.
Okay, a fusion containment is it's simply put, it's a magnetic bottle, and inside the magnetic bottle you can detonate a nuclear chain reaction. Well, what does that mean? It means I can explode an H-bomb and keep it contained inside this magnetic field.
Wow.
And that's what I was working on.
So you were building rockets to test out that theory?
Yeah, I would do it on an abstract level so I could apply the data I was getting from the rockets through the thrust, through the containment cell of the rocket engine. I could tell if I'm on the right track or not when you apply it to fusion containment. And it was limited. There wasn't a lot I could do with it, but it gave me just enough light to see which way to go. And the rockets kept getting bigger and faster all the time. And finally, I got to a point where I was ready to build a fusion containment cell, which is so much involved. You first start off with a vacuum chamber, and you work your way up from there through the different stages you have to get to. Um, and a lot of equipment's required and a lot of money. And I thought I was never going to get anywhere. And then a weird, random thing changed or happened. My mother was, at age 40, she had to go back to work because my dad was injured in an accident, and so she had to become the main breadwinner. And at age 40, she started off as a nurse's aide, and then she went on and became an LPN, and then she became a specialist in LPNs, which is a licensed practical nurse. Then she became a coronary care technician. Now, that might not sound like much today, really, in today's standards, nothing. But in 1966, in the state of Ohio, and she's a female, that was a big to do because I believe she was one of the very first females in Ohio to become a CC technician and worked on the level she did with a brand new hospital that's just built. And how does that play into all this? Well, she had a patient. This patient was really old. He was like 93, I think. And his name was Irving, and Irving was a real character and also a very hard patient to deal with. He had a cane, and he knocked out one of my mother's nurses. And she went down there with the cane and broke it over the headboard by his head and told him, "You hit another one of my nurses, I will beat you to a pulp." Well, he started behaving himself after that. And,
I'm sure he did.
yeah, he did. And Irving's wife was Arizona. And their son would come to visit, but their son was kind of so well known. He had, in 1966, he had a paparazzi problem, believe it or not. And his name was Curtis. And he'd come in and visit. And so you might ask, well, who was the son's name? His name was Curtis LeMay. That is the Air Force General Curtis LeMay. He was the chief of the Joint Chiefs. He was the man standing next to Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis. His past is amazing. He's the designer of the B-52 Stratofortress. He's the founder of SAC, Strategic Air Command, or nuclear deterrence. Man had a lot of power. He was a very big name back then. So he'd come in the hospital about 3 o'clock in the morning so he could see his parents and all the people making a big fuss over him. My mother loved 11 to 7 shift, the graveyard shift. And so he'd have to go through my mother to see his dad. And so General LeMay and my mother got to know each other pretty well. And he started asking her questions, just anybody would, what kind of family you got? She goes, I got 3 sons. 2 of them are okay, but the youngest one you got to keep an eye on him. He has a tendency to blow things up. And Curtis says, what do you mean? He's building these rockets all the time. Well, that perked Curtis's ears up, and he said, well, gee, what kind of rockets are they little kits? He goes, oh, no, the last one he built, I think, was about 8 feet tall, weighed about 1,000 pounds, and made of steel. And he said it was a cryogenic pumper, whatever that is. And LeMay, are you serious? So he said he's always writing in this book. And LeMay said, could I see that book? So when I went to bed at 11 o'clock at night to go to school next morning, she took the book to work with her. I didn't even know about it. And LeMay's going through my notebook. And he's pretty sharp himself. And he was saying, my goodness, this is an interesting application. He's trying to do fusion containment. So he asked my mother, do you have a copier? So he copied, fortunately he didn't copy the whole thing. He only copied probably about 10 or 12 pages. And I didn't know it. And she brought the book back. And then he went on to Ohio State and went across the street to a place called Battelle Memorial Institute. That is a very large think tank. And back then in 1966 or 67, they had like 125 Nobel laureates on their staff. And he turned the papers over to them and said, is this stuff real or is it just chicken scratch? And they came back and they said, man, where'd you get this? This person's moving in on trying to define a fusion containment field."
Wow.
And he said, "It's real?" And I said, "Yeah, it's real. Where is he?" He said, "He's out in cow fields flying rockets." And they go, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." So LeMay said, "So there's something to it?" He said, "Yeah, there's something to it." So he come to visit me one day, and it's just a very complicated
Well,
set of stuff that's going on with people and their lives and everything. And
so
anyway,
so he was a general, is that right?
yeah,
General
fourth,
Curtis LeMay. So he takes your notes, he takes them over to, and what was the name of that place he took it to?
Battelle Memorial.
Battelle Memorial. They said, this is real. This boy is building, and as we look at your website, americasfallfromspace.com, we see that, it even talks about with your DVD that, again, I recommend people can buy, because you have a guy, this David is an amazing guy, and we need to make sure to support him. You have a chance now. Tesla died in like a hotel room by himself,
Yeah.
These people with amazing minds, you can support him. I don't know how many people are going to see this, 1,000, maybe 100,000. All you got to do is buy his DVD at americasfallfromspace.com. And I read right along the lines of what David is talking about. Again, he was approached by a notorious Air Force general interested in first strike capability in 1969. I don't know if that's General LeMay. We'll learn in a second. But a 15-year-old boy, which is David, held the secret to the fastest rocket on Earth. And as David, I want to ask him here in a second, he was given black ops resources by the U.S. government, and he developed his rocket in secret, then destroyed it when he learned that it was to be used for first strike capability against Russia. Wow, for world peace, David really put his life and reputation on the line. So then, facing a lifetime of discreditation and silent undercover threats, Adair speaks out about technology lost in his DVD and the truth about his rocket and the alien engine that was shown to him by the U.S. government at Area 51. Now, I sped up a lot, but David, I mean, that was a cool description from your DVD. It makes me want to buy it. But so these guys, they knew you were legit. They knew that they took your notes to, and obviously I summarized a lot more, but what happened when you were 15 and how did it happen where you were given black ops resources by the U.S. government?
I guess what it evolved to is LeMay knew that I was onto something, and he also knew it was a unique situation, and there were so many factors going on at the time. In 1968, LeMay ran for president of the vice president of the United States.
Oh, wow.
His running mate was golly, I see his face right in front of me. He was the Alabama governor that got shot, George Wallace.
Okay.
So George Wallace for president, and LeMay was going to be vice president. And that was 1968. And what brought all that to a head, back up a little bit, in Vietnam, General Westmoreland was getting himself beat up every day on a battlefield. And the reason why, the advanced weapons coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail from Hanoi of the North Vietnam was being supplied by the Soviets. And it was really making a difficult situation for America on the battlefield. So Westmoreland asked for nuclear surgical strikes on Hanoi.
Who was that? You said Westmoreland?
Yeah, General Westmoreland.
Okay.
He was your supreme commander in Vietnam at this time. And so he's asking for nuclear strikes on Hanoi. Soviets said if we would launch nuclear strikes on Hanoi, they would launch an entire nuclear arsenal onto us. We'd respond, and the entire world goes. And that's how intense it was in 1968.
My gosh.
And so what LeMay was looking for, LeMay got in trouble because he's the guy that said to North Vietnam, if you don't come to the Paris peace talks, I will bomb you back into the Stone Age. And that became a really world icon phrase. And he was one that said it. And he got fired the next day by Robert McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense at the time. Well, LeMay, I think, was about 62 or 63 at the time. He was far from wanting to retire.
Right.
So he was needing something. What the something was, he's needing a solution to overcome the thing that kept us all in check with nuclear weapons called MAD, M-A-D, Mutual Assured Destruction. We live under that even to today, to this moment. What that means is if you're Soviet Union, I'm America, and if we go to war, you can be assured, both of us can assure each other, we're all going to die.
Mm.
So the only way to win MAD is not to play.
Sure.
So, however, there was one exception. An exception is whoever gets there the fastest and hits the other person so hard they can't respond, they would win through a first strike scenario.
So they were looking for the first strike capability, and that's
Right.
why he came to you.
Yeah, because the solution to first strike comes down to one word: speed. Whatever is fast enough to get there, so fast they can't respond,
Wow.
you win MAD. And that's when he was looking at my formulas, my calculations, and Battelle Memorial was looking at it. And he said, if you had a fusion containment rocket, I said, well, that system's really not built to work in the Earth's atmosphere. It's really designed to be launched interplanetarily because the speeds are so great.
How
Anyway,
how fast was it going?
well, in my test, I covered, when we did our test on June 20th, 1971, out of White Sands, New Mexico, I covered about 125 miles in 3.2 seconds.
Wow.
And you had to
That
see
was a
the
rocket?
Yeah, but it doesn't look like any ordinary rocket you've seen. You look at it, it looks like something from Buck Rogers' the way it was designed. What happened was, and now here's the tie back to the
Sure.
documentary.
Sure.
He asked me, he said, well, what do you need for it? You got the engine, what do you need for a body? I said, well, what's the biggest, baddest thing you've got in your entire arsenal? He said, Titan missile. So I said, okay, I guess I need one of them. So, so he gets the local Congressman John Ashbrook, in Ohio where it was. He was my congressman. And Congressman Ashbrook starts the movement to give me a Titan missile. Now,
How old were you at this time?
I was 15.
My God. A Titan
Well,
missile to a 15-year-old.
Yeah, it's a 130-foot tall missile, has twin half-million-pound thrusting engines. It takes a military escort to move one around. And that's what he said I could use that would contain my engine. And he said, take a look at it. So I went to Wright Patterson where they had one. I looked at it and it came back and he said, how would it work? And I said, what's the last thing going through a mosquito's mind when he hits a windshield 80 miles an hour? His ass. So I said, that's what will happen to your rocket. The engine will rip through the rocket like styrofoam. I said, well, what are you going to do? I said, we're going to have to build a rocket from scratch. Now, in the documentary that took us almost 10 years to make.
Wow.
Because we had to go to 7 different states, 2,500 miles, and back 42 years in time. And I'm the only person who knows where all this stuff is because I was there when we did it. So I took the film crew that this producer from Hollywood, Cindy Pruitt, she said, I'd like to film this thing. So we went to work, and she said, where's the first place we need to go? I said, Ashland, Ohio. Why Ashland? Well, that's the library of the congressman that died, John Ashbrook. So we went there, and she had the film crew, and you're walking up to the building. There's a curator. We go inside. He opens up the vault, and he comes out with this tray of letters. And the first letter he lays on the table, we look at it, put the camera on it, and sure enough, what it says, Dear David, while John Ashbrook is out running for president, this is 1972, we're in the process of obtaining the Titan missile for you. Well, stop right there for a minute. Look at the date on the letter. It's June 10th, 1972. Or excuse me, it's 1970 at that time. And I was born in 54, so I'm 15 years old. This is on the letterhead of Congress, signed by the security of Congress, and it's a real official congressional letter, and you're just handing a state-of-the-art ICBM Titan missile over to a 15-year-old. Don't you find that a little
Oh,
odd?
definitely. I mean,
So,
David Wilcock, who you are on Gaia with, you know, he just posted an article recently talking about all the weird things the military has been up to, including spending thousands of dollars on toilets so that, you know, there's so much. So they gave a 15-year-old a missile. So what happened next? Did they gave you black ops?
yeah, well, what happened was the curator at the museum said that the congressman died, which actually he was poisoned to death by one of the principal people involved in the story. But he died so fast, and they cremated the body, and the family is on my film, and they're still angry today about it because they were sure he was murdered, but they cremated the body without their permission.
Which congressman was this?
John Ashbrook
Oh,
of
wow. And
Ohio.
he ran for president as well.
Yeah, in '72, and anyway, he
So why did that happen, do you think, maybe?
well, because he's getting ready to blow the whistle on LeMay and on Arthur Rudolph and the bunch of other characters involved, because he said you cannot treat a teenager the way you're treating this guy. It's like you just basically absorbed him and made him a prisoner, and he doesn't even know it.
Which is you.
And yeah, and I thought, dang. So the congressman was really last of the Boy Scouts. He's really a nice guy, and so Arthur Rudolph took him out. He poisoned him, and that's one of the favorite. Wait, we're jumping around so much. There's layer upon layer upon layer. It took me to tell this story 7 hours.
Of course.
With Art Bell in 1997. We started 11 p.m. and by 6 a.m. I finally got the whole story out. And
well, I know you have an emergency message for us now, so I think we're on track pretty well. So Congressman Ashbrook was trying to help you out, but they kind of made you a prisoner and got around that was happening. Congressman Ashbrook was trying to help you in a way.
Oh yeah.
And then,
yeah, he was.
What happened from there?
Oh God, it just.
You got black ops access. How did they? I guess they kept you within the fold there, then, huh?
Yeah. Well, actually, you didn't have to keep me there. They kept me at home.
Okay.
My parents bought a house. We moved to Ohio, and what came with the property was a house, but down at the other end of the property was a service dealership that was out of business. But you know the giant garage bay, you know. Anyway, that was mine. That's where parents moved me in there because they wanted me out of the basement because I have a tendency to blow things up.
They don't want a rocket to go through the floor, right? Right up.
Well, that's exactly what my dad said. He said, "I told my mother we don't need to be launched out of this house.
Right.
So we're going to put him down there on our property, and if it blows up, we'll just put a sign. This is where David Adair used to be."
That's.
So, anyway, it's pretty logical on their part. But LeMay came in and looked at the facility, and then literally an army of construction people came in. They redid the building, revamped it, put state-of-the-art technology in it. We covered up the windows, made a fake wall that could slide, and that's where we started building Pislam, which is the name of the rocket, which was a fusion containment rocket.
How do you spell that?
Pitholem.
Did that stand for something? Was that an acronym or?
No, actually, it came out of a dream my mother had, of all things. I was in the shop working, and she came in. She said, I was working on the rocket, and she said, "Hey, I just had the strangest dream." I said, "Okay, I'm listening to what you got." She said, "Well, it was a big desert, and there was these giant grandstands, and they were facing each other, and there was this railroad track running between them, and this big locomotive, a couple of them was pushing this big rocket on a sled, and it's coming down the rails. It got between the grandstands and stopped, and there was a big scaffolding up there, and side door opens on it, and you step out." I was, "How do you know it's me?" "Well, I know what you look like. But she goes, it's got to be a pretty good ways in the future because you didn't have any hair on top, and what hair you did have left was white. And I'm going, oh, great, great. I'm going to look like a white-haired Friar Tuck. Wonderful. So she said, you stepped out and you said you thanked everybody for coming, and let's see how this fusion containment engine looks like when it's under operation. You went back in the rocket. The locomotives pushed it on a couple miles away, and then they pulled back. And she said the engines turned on this thing on the sled. The sled had its own rocket motor. It was driving across the desert floor. And then as it went up the side of a mountain, she said your big engines turned on. She said it was so bright, everybody had these dark glasses that looked like welder lenses. I said, that's just about what you would need to look at the exhaust of this thing. And she said once those big main engines came on, it was bright as the sun, which it would be. There'll be over 1 million candle power per square inch on the exhaust alone. The luminosity is equivalent to the sun, which is what it is. It's a sun inside a magnetic sphere. So anyway,
inside of your
magnetic containment cell.
Mm-hmm. In the rocket you were building. The
in the
fusion
rocket
containment is that?
Yeah, that's where you get fusion containment. So anyway, it roars out, and she said it left so fast you couldn't even see it, but the exhaust left like a rainbow trail.
So you guys launched it.
Yeah,
from your.
Remember, it's a dream now.
Okay.
So
I see.
This was the dream.
This
anyway,
is how you came up with the name.
Yeah, because
your mom.
This thing took off, and I was thinking, this woman knows nothing about fusion containment, but she just described the launch of what it would actually look like to the letter.
Wow.
And I never told her anything about any of this, and I said, well, that's pretty dang interesting.
That's very interesting.
She said, one other thing, there was a name painted on the side of it. I said, yeah, what? She goes, I wrote it down. I woke up spelling it, and here it is. And I first looked at it, I thought, it looks like Pithole, P-I-T-H-O-L-E. But there's an M on the end of it, and it changed it to Pitholum.
Wow.
And I went, dang, that's a cool name. So that's why I painted on the name of the real rocket, Pitholum.
That's very amazing. And the Indian guy who wrote a book on string theory, he said he got all the information. I guess that's what a lot of physicists use to even today. They use this book. I don't remember his name. It's an Indian gentleman from, I think, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, a couple hundred years ago. But he said he got all the information from a Hindu goddess in his dreams. That's what he said. So that's very interesting about your mother.
Yeah.
The dream. So let me ask you this, David. And I have a call to action for people to support David. This whole story, and along with, like he said, he's got the real letters from congressmen. It's at americasfallfromspace.com. I'm going to buy the DVD after we get done recording the show. Maybe later tonight because we have another interview. But I'm going to buy the DVD because we can support David. He's a hero, and this is a call to action. And I know David has actually an emergency call to action for us because we talked before. That's how I know this. But let me ask you this, David. So this story is amazing. So your mom, she comes up with this she has this dream of what the fusion containment rocket or the system you're building. You have Curtis LeMay, General LeMay, and I guess you're building this so you don't blow up the house. You're building this outside of your parents' house. You're a boy. What ended up happening with this rocket that you were building, that specific one, and then how does that morph into you getting Black Ops resources by the U.S. government and ending up at Area 51 taking a look at an alien engine?
Well, that's what this thing just, I don't know, the whole project, now think back on it, they really didn't have control of it. It was just evolving on its own. There was outside forces causing things to happen, and there's so many details that we've just skipped over. It's in the film.
We'll have to have you back. Actually,
yeah.
We could talk for hours.
One detail, which is really important, LeMay didn't stick around me very long, just a couple of visits, and that was it. But on January 6, 1969, on January 6, 69, we get a knock on the front door, and it's a full bird colonel standing in front of me, and his name is Colonel Arthur Bailey Williams. And he was the XO for General LeMay. And now here's where I really give the critics a fit. If you would call the probate judge in Maryville, Tennessee, and ask them who was the executor of Colonel Williams' estate, the judge will tell you David Tyson Adair. So if this is bull, how do you explain that?
Now, can you repeat that again? Because this sounds important. I need to understand this.
Well, what it is when Colonel Williams, was with me every day for 26 and a half months, building Pitholum. I had an army of people, and I asked them, don't show up at the house in uniform, wear blue jeans and plaid shirts, and the Air Force guys loved that. So they were more than happy to comply. And LeMay thought that was an excellent idea, so they blend in with the farmers around us. So I didn't want to have all this Air Force personnel being seen.
Sure.
So so nobody knew he was doing this, but Colonel Williams was there every day. So I got to know him really well. Well, jump 45, 48 years later, he dies, and his daughter's there, and she's dying of Lou Gehrig's disease. She hears me on the radio. She gets the radio to tell me that Colonel Williams' daughter's calling. I never met her, but I knew of her. So I talked to her for a few minutes, and she is totally convinced I am the teenager that her dad used to talk about.
Oh, wow.
So she invites me over, and she makes me executor of the estate.
Oh, wow.
So that proves that I knew Colonel Williams. He was real. I was there. It all happened. Because how do you Photoshop being an executor of a state?
That's right. And there's many. That's one of many things. And
it's just one thing after another like that can be proven hardcore that all this happened. And it's hard proving a paper trail because a lot of it was purposely destroyed as the project went on because they were covering it up. But I still know where to look and find things, and found it for the film crew. But there's just too much documentation, real hard. It's all admissible to court, by the way. So if I was being on trial for lying, I can have all this admitted into court as evidence.
Sure. And, people, we made videos. We had one video just asking if HAARP maybe is modifying the weather, even though there's U.S. patents and the Air Force admits it. And people just comment F you. Like, they don't even watch what our video says. And we even say we forgive the government if there is wrongdoing. We say that in the video. And people just, I don't know who's maybe they're paid by the government. I don't know. Maybe it's just people that really are defending HAARP. I don't know where those people come from. People that are really passionate about HAARP not being a... I don't even know anybody who knows about HAARP. You probably do. But my point is, people just question everything. And they will. It sounded like you got a lot of flack for the story, but what we've found: 6% of people trust the mainstream news. Actually, your story is more likely to be true than what maybe people see on the big 3 news channels. So, so the fact that you have all this is super amazing. What were you going to say, David? Go ahead.
Well, just simple things like people say, oh, your mother never was a nurse. That's all a lie. I said, well, we went to check her retirement records, and her name was removed, and the curator or the gatekeeper of the retirement thing said, I remember her name being there. Where's her records? And they couldn't find them. So I told the producer, I said, I know another way we can do this. It took me 2 years through courts, but I went to a place that LeMay could not burn a trail on. I went to Social Security. And we pulled my mother's Social Security records, and there it shows that she was a nurse in 1966 at Rowan Martin Memorial Hospital, and she was a coronary care technician, and showed the times and dates and all that stuff. Then what you do, you go and get Irving LeMay's death certificate and look at the dates and where he died. He died at Rowan Memorial Hospital under my mother's care, and there is on his death certificate the time, date, and place exactly matching the Social Security records that my mother was the head nurse of on that third shift. So it's proof positive. How do you Photoshop government documents like that? And they have their court seals stamped on them so that they can be admitted to a court of evidence. So there it proves my mother was there, Irving LeMay's caregiver, and Curtis would come in and visit his dad. My mother and him got to know each other. That's how all this started. So there's absolute hard court evidence that all this happened. And you can check it out yourself. You
Yeah,
can,
people can find their own truth. They get your DVD,
yeah,
americasfallfromspace.com, and they find their own truth. And,
yeah.
you know, people like David get put through so much crap. And people
Oh,
like
man.
Tesla and, you know, Dr. Flanagan. You just watch Dr. Flanagan on Gaia. He's 70 or something. I mean, and he has a very similar story to David. I mean, he worked with the military when he was young and all. I mean, I would love you guys to get together because, and you can just tell, it's almost like you can just get a feeling that, man, he went through a lot of shit, but he's positive now, but he's 70. I mean, so to support David and to get the facts, go to americasfallfromspace.com, buy the DVD. But David,
Yeah.
I believe you. So what happened? So how did you get, what happened with your rocket, the one that you built, the Pithlum, and then how did it land you in Area 51 looking at an alien engine? And then I want to get to your breaking emergency news that you have for us today.
Okay. We're going to have to skip over so much details.
Exactly,
I mean,
which people can get on the DVD.
yeah, and all of this stuff, if you watch the DVD, you can, when we show you documents and stuff, you can backtrack it yourself and go to those locations and find the same document that we're showing you. How do you Photoshop that? You can't, unless it's the truth, which it is.
Good point.
So that's the reason I did this, just so put an end to all the noise about it. And but anyway,
So how did your rocket go? The Pithlum?
Well, we got it built. We transported it from where I built it in the shop, our own shops, which were heavily modified and brought up to date. And we went, we got a we got a semi that had Piggly Wiggly on the side of it, and which is a grocery store chain. And Pithlum was loaded in it. It was taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. There, we loaded it onto a C-141 Starlifter, and we flew from Wright-Patterson to White Sands, New Mexico, testing ground. The rocket was prepped and it was launched. Crazy story in the launch we just ain't got time for.
With this engine in it?
Yeah, and
was it running on this engine?
oh well, yeah, it operated. It left. I mean, boy, did it leave. It left so fast we didn't see it. And I said I expected that. I said it's why I built the rocket body the way I did. I said, could you see a 30-06 bullet leave a rifle barrel? That's how fast it's moving from the get-go. It's, you know, a rocket launch takes off slow, gets faster, and then it goes on outside, right?
Sure.
Not this thing. This thing's only got 2 speeds, off and wide open. And it took off from the beginning, and you couldn't even see it. And anyway, phones lit up on the desk. It was NORAD, and they said, what are you people doing over there in White Sands? Well, we had a rocket blow up here. And he goes, well, that blown up rocket, we're tracking it. It's now curving at the apogee at 125 miles up. And then it was, it's a long story. Other people got involved. They had me reprogram it. It didn't come back to White Sands. It went exactly where we wanted. They wanted it in a place called Groom Lake, Nevada, which I had no idea what Groom Lake was. I pulled out the maps, and it's a dry lake bed. And I'm going, why are you dropping this thing in a dry lake bed? You know, it's just, God, how are you going to get to it? Well, I didn't know there was a big base there or anything. Nobody knew. This is 1971. So anyway, it gets there. And the reason this whole thing happened in LeMay Air Force, all the stuff, picked me and want me and supported me and supplied everything with labs and materials and people and machining. you know, and we assembled this thing because he wanted, and this other guy came in named Arthur Rudolph. Look his name up. Oh, buddy, what a deal. Uh, Arthur Rudolph was, he was a, he came in through Operation Paperclip
It's
with
a
one of
former
von
Nazi.
Braun. Yeah, he's a Gestapo. And he's also winner of the Most Distinguished Service Award, the highest award NASA can give, because he was the designer, chief designer of the F-1 Saturn V Apollo rocket engines. And but he, in May 24th, 1984, he was deported out of San Francisco to Munich, Germany, where he's held for war crimes. And NASA kept us all quiet, so y'all didn't know anything about it. And that's because he had killed over 100,000 people at Metalworks, where they built the V-2 rockets.
Wow.
I mean, that was the guy on my case every minute of the day. He took over Pislam. He took over the project. He had it dropped at Area 51.
Did he steal your nuclear containment engine?
He tried, but before he could, I blew it into a million pieces.
What happened?
Well, I found out why they wanted me and my rocket at Groom Lake was because we went skipping over tons of details here.
Sure.
They tell me downstairs. I could describe the place in detail doing the
This
film.
is at Area 51, right?
Yeah, and we were in the center hangar. The floor drops down. It's a big elevator. We go down. We go to another chamber. Opens up, and the door was really cool. It's an iris. You know what an iris looks like in a camera?
Sure.
Anyway, this big iris opened up. This thing's about 50 feet in diameter. So anyway, we went in there, and in this room, they raised up the curtains, and these aren't cloth curtains. These are like mud flaps from semis that probably weigh tons. You're not going to jerk the curtain up and look underneath it. Obviously, you don't want that. But anyway, I'm skipping over tons of details.
So somehow, you destroyed your rocket, but
well, they showed me the reason they took me there, and they raised the curtains in this room they brought me to. There's an electromagnetic fusion containment engine sitting there, not the size of mine, which is only about 2 feet long, but the size of an 18-wheel semi. It's a power plant of enormous proportions. It's an electromagnetic fusion containment power plant, complete.
Wow.
And the way it was built, the construction of it was just insane. On my engine, I had all kinds of weld lines and metal fasteners and hardware, miles of wiring. And this thing, not one weld line, not one seam, not one rivet, one nut. It looked like it grew like an eggplant. How did you build that? And it's in a perfect configuration. See, the way I could tell with a fusion containment engine is that if you'd take a Model A, engine block and lay it down, and go get yourself a Lamborghini Countach engine block and set them by each other, they both look similar because they both are internal combustion engines.
Okay.
However, the Lamborghini's got 1,000 times the power of that Model A, but nevertheless they still have the same basic core design. This thing had the same basic core design imprint as mine, and the reason that being is that it's the way the cyclotrons and the accelerators are built and the way they're configured. The reason they can't get fusion containment today, they're on the wrong design. They've been on the wrong design for 75 years. They're still putting in money. NASA, Princeton, Purdue, all these people spend billions of dollars, and they still hadn't even gotten to, I think it's 0.007564 of 1 second containment. In 1971, I had 4.5 seconds.
Wow.
That's the eternity difference. And it's because they're on the wrong damn design.
Well, probably on purpose. They're probably being led that way on purpose, and they spend billions and trillions on diseases that probably they could cure with technology built in the 30s as well by Dr. Rife and Lakovsky. So let me ask you this. So why did they have you build this this nuclear containment rocket, if they already had this, did they just want to see if you could do it so you could figure out what this thing
No,
was
no,
at
no,
Area
no,
51? Okay,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no.
Go ahead. Thanks.
The rocket, this power plant. I never saw any aliens. I never saw any spaceships. You know, I hear all these stories come out of Area 51. I didn't see any of that stuff, but I do tell in the tape that there was a lot of unusual stuff going on in there.
Really?
Yeah, technically, it just did. It was impossible to achieve at that time.
How far underground were you? Do you know?
I'd say about 200 feet, about
Okay.
20 stories. So anyway,
So you see this power plant.
yeah, this power plant is just jaw dropping. And so anyway, I asked Rudolph's with me, and like I said, we skipped so much stuff. But
Sure.
anyway, the engine, this power plant, it's not just a machine sitting there. It's ascension. It's intelligent. It's alive.
Wow, really?
It's both organic and inorganic combined. It is a symbiotic system. So that when it's functioning, and what's wrong with it, it's got a hole blown in the side of it about 4 or 5 feet in diameter, and it doesn't work. That's why they brought me there. I have a fusion containment working engine up on the desert floor above them. This thing they've got is damaged, badly. It's not going to function, and they brought me there to ask him how this thing works, and that's where the big argument. You just have to see the video.
So you're almost like a doctor. I mean, this is almost like a being, and they're almost asking you to see if you can give it like some kind of heart transplant.
Well, they definitely had their reasons, which you'll watch the video, you'll find out. They're trying to unravel first strike scenarios, and you'll see how this all comes together. But anyway, it forced me into a bad situation because I couldn't let my rocket up on the desert floor, go into their labs, because they'll eventually figure out how this thing works, and they are going to have a first strike nuclear weapon system. And if you do that, you're going to have to burn 1 billion Soviets. Not even that many, but hundreds of millions of Soviets are going to die. And if you attack them on a first strike, guess who you got to strike the same day? China. Now you're looking at over 1 billion people going to burn alive in this thing.
Oh my God!
And I can't have that. I didn't build this thing to make it into a weapon system. I built it to give us a new type of energy. It's what it is, a power plant. And my power plant, this fusion containment power plant, is so different from any reactors that exist today. For instance, you can have a meltdown. Look at Fukushima. What a mess. And then you can make nuclear weapon fuel with it. Look at Iran, North Korea. And you can, besides the meltdown and nuclear fuel, you create waste. And also, it's dirty. It's radioactivity everywhere. And my nuclear power plant cannot melt down. I don't have fuel rods. I have two pellets is all I've got. About the size of baby green peas. Just 2 of them. And when I annihilate them, I get enough energy off this thing, and it runs in a figure 8 pattern of eternity. It's all the power you need. You have the power of the sun trapped inside a magnetic bottle, tapped on your fingertips. And here's the beauty of it. You can't make nuclear weapon fuel with it. You can't have a meltdown. And it runs at 100 million degrees centigrade. It's not cold fusion, y'all. It's hot. I'm 10,000 times the temperature of the sun. But the reason that's important, when you shut the reactor down, you can walk in it in shirt sleeves, because there's zero radiation. At 100 million degrees centigrade, there's nothing left. Nothing. Not even atoms. So you have clean thermal fusion power. Now, who would want that? Everybody.
Of course, it would change the world.
It would, and that's what I was building. But in 1971, I could have given you a fusion containment reactor. Instead, I get in a tug of war. I end up being thrown off my life track where I was going to go to theoretical astrophysics, Instead, I end up in the United States military, and I end up spending 11 years with U.S. Navy, and that built all kinds of things in the Navy for you. So
So,
anyway,
but how does it
that's
feel to know that you could be responsible for saving 1 billion lives?
I honestly, it's
That's unbelievable.
I you know
Do
I
you ever
just live with it.
do you ever think about that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, man, I mean
There's not
that's
a there's not a day goes by that I'm not reminded of it. So yeah,
you're a hero, David. I mean, I want to
I
thank you.
don't.
I don't think enough people really, I can't even comprehend that. Even if you maybe saved 1 billion lives, that is a beautiful thing. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, hmm
Well, they got angry because when I blew up Pithlum at the base, and it's a really cool way I did that. You just have to watch the film.
what?
But
So you blew
go.
it up. They were pissed because they wanted this first strike capability. They didn't want to help the world and sort of end poverty and give everybody free energy, which we're working on in Venezuela, and you're hopefully working on that too. You said we talked about this before the show yesterday, but let me ask you this. Could you, because I want people to check out americasfallfromspace.com for the full story, but can you tell us just a little bit more about this alien? It sounds like to me an alien craft that they didn't know how to use.
It wasn't a spaceship. It was a power
Oh, it
plant
was a power plant.
out of the spaceship. By the size of the engine compared to relative use in proportion to size, the spacecraft was big. Had to be bigger than a football field, and the power of this thing was unimaginable. These power plants, the way this thing was designed by the race that built them, they um, the entire power plant can disengage itself from the spacecraft. The power plant is its own entity. It has its own brain, if you want to call it that, its own mind, and then the spaceship has its own identity. It's also an sentient being. It's alive, and then the crew. So the crew and the ship and the power plant all merge together physically, and you have a symbiotic system. The most perfect way to travel through space, and the speeds and stuff. And I've also figured out through having to do all this, I figured out how exactly spacecrafts, people see them blinking here and they're blinked over there and
Right.
they're blink. I know exactly what they're doing and how they do it because I basically mimic the same damn systems.
How
And
are they doing it?
the way they do this is you don't travel linear, in a point straight line A to B. They don't do that. It'd take you too damn long. Like let's go to Andromeda Galaxy. Well, you're going to hit a riddle that Einstein made, and it goes like this. How do you travel millions of times faster than the speed of light without breaking the speed of light? Because it's right now, according to Newtonian physics, it's the ultimate speed. Nothing can go faster than it, at least on as far as we know. So how do you do that? How do you go millions of times faster than the speed of light without breaking the speed of light? Well, that's what my power plant can do. It can do exactly just that. Um, on a linear scale from Milky Way galaxy to Andromeda, it takes 200 million years to get there at the speed of light.
Right.
That's 186,756.54 miles per second. Per second. And it still take you 200 million years to get there. It's 200 million light years away. There are 6 trillion miles in each light year. So, how do you cover such a great distance? How do these aliens that, whoever that they are that come to visit us, how can they get here? The distances are so vast. Well, they're not traveling linear because, organisms normally don't live 200 million years.
Right.
So they got to do it faster. Well, they can't. They can't break the speed of light. Well, do you remember the force fields that are built inside the engine that contain 100 million degrees fury of a sun?
Yeah, the sun. Right.
Yeah, because there's no way any metal could contain that kind of force. It's the magnetic force fields that's inside my containment cell that's holding it. Well, you replicate those force fields through a secondary binary system, and what happens, it becomes, think of a spacecraft inside a stack of donuts. You have the hole in the center. Well, those donuts around the spacecraft are the magnetic fields, the second ones. And they will pull and wrap space between you and Andromeda Galaxy really tight. Then what happens, you turn on your engine to about half light speed, which is still pretty damn fast.
Hell yeah.
And you jump through each of the dimensional walls of the wrap like a burrito. And as you jump through these different walls, you're doing something that I call transdimensional jumping. And you push through these things, and at half light speed, in our time of about 2 to 4 minutes, you'll shut it off, and then the fabric of space will unwrap itself, and you're 200 million light years over in Andromeda. It only took you 4 minutes to get there, and you did it at half light speed. You went millions of times faster than the speed of light without breaking the speed of light.
So that's just amazing. I mean, in a way, they're time travelers, right?
In a way, yeah. There's so many other problems that I've seen that encountered with this thing. Two of them right off the bat is, how do you communicate and how you navigate? You outrun your own headlights.
To say the least, right?
Yeah, and you outrun your own radio signal. So how do you? I don't know. I ain't got enough brain cells. I don't know. All I did was get you a propulsion system, and I can get your butt there. Now, where you end up and who you talk to, you're going to get somebody else, because I don't even know where to start on something like that.
Well, so did you... I mean, you know so much. It's like you're a treasure. You're a national treasure. I mean, everybody should be aware of you and what you've done, in my opinion. So let me ask you this, because people are going to want to know this. So I know the power plant's separate, and I know people can go to americasfallfromspace.com, get so many more details. Did you see an actual alien craft down there as well?
Well,
At
I don't know
Area
if
51?
I saw some crafts, and I mean, there's nothing I've ever seen that's even up to today close to what I saw. I don't know if they were alien or they were our own construction, but they were not test models, because they had auxiliary power units like an NC8 hooked to it. They had air conditioning hoses hooked to it, which meant at least human beings were inside working on them. And the biggest clue, they had drip pans under them. You don't have drip pans under a model.
Right.
So these things were sitting in other hangar bays. Only got a glimpse at them as we went by, but I could remember a lot of things about them, and I describe them in detail in the DVD.
That's americasfallfromspace.com to buy that DVD, which I recommend highly, and support David Adair, who's Adair, not Aldair, Adair, who's a hero in my opinion. So, David, so you've seen so much. You've seen this, and I remember there was a skin to the power plant. It was an organic skin. Is that right? You get to touch it?
Oh yeah, and as soon as you do, it interacts with you. That's how I knew.
Was it sad that it was hurt?
It wasn't happy. No, it wasn't in pain or anything. It just didn't like the entity that it was dealing with.
How do you think they got it?
That was a good question. That's an excellent question. When in the DVD, you'll hear an argument between me and the Air Force personnel, because this is 1971. Adults are very condescending to 17-year-olds, unlike today.
Sure. Yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, they were really bad back then. And you'll hear the argument that broke out between us. And as I argued with them, I just boxed them right in and got them to admit that this was not theirs. It's not from the neighborhood. And it's also not talking to them. They haven't a clue. And that's when when I interacted with it, I was looking at their faces, and they've never seen that before. So obviously it didn't like talking to them, but it did to me. And anyway, that's all in the DVD.
So who knows how they got it? Who knows? They hijacked it.
Well, I asked him a question. I said, they were trying to tell me it was theirs. I said, well, where's the people built it? Well, they're on vacation, son, like you are, summer vacation. Well, they leave any notes? Well, they have homework like you, boy. They got to take their homework with them. And I'm going, oh, God, please. I knew they were lying, and this wasn't ours. The construction of it was beyond our capability, just the construction part. So I asked him, I said, well, where'd you get this thing? Did you find it when you were digging this place out? And that really hit a nerve. And I asked him another simple question. This underground facility he had was so huge, you couldn't see the end of it with the naked eye. As a matter of fact, it curved with the curvature of the earth and went out of sight. That's how big it is down there. And
my God.
And I asked him, I said, what'd you do with all the dirt? And they got really upset about that question. Really upset. Which told me, oh, God, they didn't expect somebody to ask them a simple question, where did all the dirt go?
Right.
Because they didn't see any fresh dirt upstairs. So
you had the courage to ask them, and they were like, why is this 17-year-old asking us all this stuff?
Yeah, I played dumb because I wanted to go along with this thing until we finally got to a point I couldn't take it anymore. And I let loose on them. Then they realized I'm 17 going on 45. And they knew this was they had made a mistake. But anyway.
So how can, David, let me ask you this. I mean, to me, you're a hero. And then, right, you blew up your engine because you realized it was a first strike capability thing. They were trying to get against Russia. They weren't going to use it to give people free energy. We have our own free energy. Trying to get free energy in Venezuela. We've hired people. Who knows if we're going to succeed? But let me ask you this, David, and then I want to move on to your emergency message for us now.
Yeah.
Spend at least 20 minutes on that. But how can you, David, how can we give you security? How can we give you what you need so that you may be able to build this again or bring some of the technologies to the public? Is there anything that can be done? Could you build this thing again?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, in some undisclosed locations, I'm reconstructing all of the diagrams, the blueprints, the mathematical equations, everything you need to assemble it. I'm going to run it through a 3D manufacturing machine. I'm going to give you a complete model of it in proportional scale. And between the blueprints, the list of materials, I'll even make you a list of tools. All this stuff will be put on open source. And upon my death, it gets dumped onto the entire planet. Everybody gets it free. Everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, that means Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, they all get it free.
Sure.
Because you want them to have these kind of reactors so they'll shut the other pieces of crap down. And you will absolutely change the entire energy face of this planet. And carbon footprints will cease to exist as you know it.
Well, just make sure you have it in, of course, a lot of different locations. And
I did.
I mean, I think the best, from what I've heard, from Alex Jones, and it gets into our just people that are whistleblowers. We had that guy that was dealing with Snowden,
right,
Greenwald or whatever, Glenn something Greenwald. I mean, I think just as long as we get these things out there, and if you're more visible with it, I think if you're in the light. And you're more visible, I think it's sort of, you're safer. I think the more visible we are with some things, it's safer. Hopefully, I don't know. But the good news is, I mean, you're just a hero. Anything we can do to help, anything you want to, if we can help you with support in any way, whether to get some word out in the future, you just let me know, because we're gonna. I think if a lot of people are working on something like David is, somebody's going to get it out there. I mean, whether in David's already done it, so David, that's just an amazing. I can't take enough time on this. We actually talk about free energy on the show all the time. And I just want to say thank you for even thinking of it and for what you've done already, because
no problem.
It's not something I can put into words, especially in a couple minutes on a show. But and I know people don't realize what is going on out there. And it brings us to our next point. Of course, you can support David by buying his DVD. Just a DVD. Just a DVD. I'm going to buy one after this recording tonight, probably late. But americasfallfromspace.com. americasfallfromspace.com. And David Adair is with us. David has some emergency news. Some emergency news that is really, really important, which is a little bit different than what we've talked about already. And we have, I don't know, and we're honored just to have David on. We have 20 minutes or so if it's okay with David. But David, what is going on out in the world that we need to be aware of in terms of the SHIELD Act and all the things we were talking about on the phone?
Yep, you people, I swear, y'all standing there, your pants and your underwear is down around your ankles and you're flapping in the breeze. You have no idea how vulnerable you are. And you're going to die. You're all going to die. 93% of you will anyhow. That's what the estimates are. And what I'm talking about is an EMP strike or a CME hit from the sun.
What is an EMP? People don't even know what that is.
All right. There are two things you got to worry about. One, man-made electro-magnetic pulse. That's a pulse that comes out of a nuclear warhead when it explodes. And when it does, you have three different levels of an EMP or a CME. They're called E1, E2, and E3. What will happen is, well, let me tell you what's in motion right now as we're talking. Fat boy down there in North Korea's got a present coming, y'all, and you're going to be eating it very shortly. Why is he launching all those rockets? Well, I know a little bit about rockets now, don't I? Well, I know exactly what he's doing. He's got an imaginary United States out in the ocean, and he's targeting it. He's checking his range, his accuracy, and his speeds, and he's doing pretty good. By next spring, he'll have a delivery vehicle that will reach the center of the United States, right over top the Mississippi River. And he's going to load an EMP warhead in that thing, and it's going to fly in. It's going to come in above the ionosphere at the edge of space, come in about 4,000 miles an hour. Can't shoot it down. And if you think you got Star Wars weaponry and stuff, think again. That's never been proven. We haven't seen anything. We don't know if it's there or not. You better hope to God it is, because this thing comes in. Once it gets above you in the Mississippi River area, it'll detonate. It'll have about a 3.2 million megaton warhead. And that pulse wave coming out of there is going to be potent. It's going to come down and cascade over the 48 states of continent North America. And when it gets there, it's going to do damage out of your worst nightmares, would make it look like a picnic. Because what's going to happen when the E1 wave comes in is a plasma charged field. And it will descend upon your power grid, which is 40 feet in the air on top of telephone poles. You know, it's just like, here it is, come and get it. So the wave will come out and it'll cascade across the lines. And those power lines normally carry, in neighborhoods, they'll carry about 5,500 volts. This plasma charge will send 3.2 million volts down through the power lines. You know what's going to happen?
What's that?
The power lines will turn red, white, boop, about that fast. All your lights in your house, wherever you work, they're all going to flash like a flash bulb. And then everything goes black. And if that was it, that's bad enough, but that's just the beginning. Wait till you see what's going to happen in the next 60 seconds. And what's going to happen is the power lines will all evaporate, but all the transformers, those big gray round things you see on telephone poles, if you didn't know this, they're filled with oil. It's the oil that keeps the heat down, so it allows the current to flow through it. And that oil is going to detonate. And when they detonate, they're going to look like napalm. Liquid fire going everywhere. How many transformers are there? God almighty, look outside. You'll see anywhere, anybody in the range of my voice, step out and look and see 20 or 30 of them. Millions of them will go off at one time. And now the entire landscape is on fire. Call 911. You can't. There's no cell phones, no landlines, No satellite phones. All gone. That's what the E1 pulse wave will do. Call the police. You can't. Fires are raging everywhere. People are screaming. You'll have citizens running down the street on fire. Women holding their babies on fire. Bad enough for you? Well, it's going to get worse. Because you know what's going to happen about 25 seconds later? How many airplanes do you think is in the air at any one time? It's in the thousands. They all come screaming to the ground, crashing. Their engines are shut off. Can't restart them. They just crash. They crash into hospitals, schools, public libraries, malls, theaters. And when they hit, they're going to detonate.
Why would the airplanes crash? Because because all of their navigation, everything is gone?
No, all the internal electronic components that makes the jet engine run just suddenly went dead.
Oh, they get shocked by the EMP.
By the pulse wave, right?
Pulse wave, okay.
So now you got raining airplanes everywhere coming down. I mean, everything from a Cessna 150 to a 747, all the militaries as well, they all come down and they crash and burn. Now you're on fire from coast to coast, can't call anybody, burning like heck, and you think, can it get any worse? Oh, yeah, certainly can. Well, how's that? There are 61 nuclear power plants in the United States alone, y'all. And when the power goes off, the pumps aren't running to pump the water through the damn Powell rods, which I got rid of in my design. And what happens is Fukushima and all 61 reactors in North America. And they'll melt down. They'll burn through the bottom of the floor of the plant. They'll hit the cold earth. They'll detonate. They blow back up just like Chernobyl. And now you got 61 Chernobyls spewing everything all over the landscape in America with all the fires going on. Bad enough? Gets worse. How? Well, once all that goes on, what do you think people are going to do? They're going to make a run on the bank. There are no banks. No ATMs. Can't get no money. Run the grocery stores. They're going to be run. There's only 72 hours of food on a shelf at a constant supply. When you shelf supply, 3 days later, those grocery stores are empty. So now, you got 350 million people population in the United States dealing with all the fires, dealing with radiation, and now no water to drink, no food, no pumps running. So guess what happens to all the toilets? Crap comes out of the bathtub and out of the sinks all over. You have a river of crap going through your house. So is it getting bad enough for you?
That's not even the worst problem is the crap. Go ahead.
It gets worse because now people see it. They see, man, there ain't nothing here. Can't call police, can't call for help. Yeah, everything's on fire, got radiation coming down. Good God, now there's no food, no water. Sanitation's gone. There's crap everywhere. And the one thing that survives through all of this, it's like some kind of evil, twisted karma or something. The 400 million handguns and all the ammo survives in perfect condition. What do you think's going to happen? 350 million people with no food, no water, no sanitation, no power, and you got 400 million handguns. It's called societal collapse, and everybody turns on everybody. And there have been 11 major institutes that have done this study for the EMP and for the CME, which is the sun side of the equation, corona mass ejection. I'll get that in a minute. So anyhow, these 11 studies, these groups, like AAAS, American Association of Advancements for Science, League of Concerned Scientists, the United Nations, World Health Organizations, and a lot of these organizations don't even like each other. And that's what got my attention.
So, David.
All 11 organizations came to the same conclusion, to the same numbers. And they say, in an EMP attack, 93% of America dies in the first 12 months. Bad enough for you?
What else you got?
And it gets worse.
My gosh.
93%
of America dies and it gets worse?
Yeah.
But well, let me ask you this, because people are going to hear this. First of all, they're going to be like, it's almost too much to comprehend, right? But I looked at some articles. Actually, I wasn't even looking. After I talked to David last week on Drudge Report, I saw a link South Korea banks preparing for what they would do with this EMP. So I'm like, an EMP attack. And I'm like, I've never even heard of it. I mean, I briefly heard of an EMP, but I didn't know any of what David is saying. And it sounds almost like people are going to zone out. Like it's like doomsday times infinity, right? So David, does North Korea, do these weapons definitely exist? How do we know that? And then you were ready to go on hunger strike, or you were ready to go on a hunger strike at the White House lawn. What can we do about this? So first of all, how do we know these things actually exist? And then what can we do about it? Tell us about your mission.
EMP is old news, y'all. It happened back in the 50s when they were launching nuclear weapons out in the ocean. They didn't just stop at the ocean. They fired them into space. You can see the video clips on YouTube of us detonating nuclear weapons in low Earth orbit. We did that. And you know what? I think it was Project Orange. They detonated one, and all of a sudden the entire Asian seacoast went black. They went, "What's that? Did we cause that?" And they found out they did cause it. It was an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse wave that came off there and took out the entire Asian coast. And they didn't say a word about it, because you imagine what Asia would have to say to us. So anyhow, that's when it became a fact in the middle 50s that there's an EMP.
Somebody had them.
Well, it came off of our own warhead.
Okay.
So now you just build it in a rocket, get over America about 300 miles above it, detonate it, and you take out everything.
What's the range of that? If it was, you said it can reach the whole country, just one of them?
Just one. It'll come down, it'll drop from space, it'll come down over, I'd say St. Louis, Missouri would be a good place to detonate.
Well, let's hope none detonate, but let me ask you this. How do we know North Korea has one? Do we know?
Yeah. We know by the sheer materials, the tests that he's doing. He's shaking the ground because he's doing underground tests. And the size of the warheads, that's what told us. They're around 3.2 to 3.5 megatons as an EMP weapon. Our warheads are 20 megaton. Some of them get up to 40 or 50. That's when you blow entire landscapes away. He's not doing that. He's doing an EMP, and it's around 3.5, and that's what we're finding under the underground tests. So he's detonating the warhead size perfect for an EMP. He did it last month.
Do you think there's we talked about the Georgia Guidestones and this agendas possibly to depopulate the world, and where it says they want to, on the Georgia Guidestone, a monument in Georgia, that they want to take the population down to 500 million. Do you think that there are some people, maybe even above the president and things like that are almost maybe cheering for North Korea to do this?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, because think about it, y'all. We change the government every 4 or 8 years in elections. No guns, nothing. We change the entire government over. I mean, how far a different government can you get from Obama to Trump? I mean, it's like light years in difference. So why don't the country collapse? It should. It doesn't, because there's something underneath it that's steady, rock solid, and been there ever since.
And President Clinton said there's a government within the government I don't control, and that he can't answer questions on Area 51 in a press conference while he was president, which backs up what David's saying. So, David, you were ready to go on hunger strike. You told me a story on the phone, but where you're ready to go, really a hero. You're just a hero, man. I mean, so you're ready to go out there. I mean, what did you find that's being attempted in the U.S.? What should people pay attention to in terms of what can be done about this?
Okay. Look, go to my website, click on the SHIELD Act. You can read the entire act, 25 pages, and read it. It'll tell you how we will harden the grid, our electric grid, against an EMP attack and the CME from the sun. Now, that act was started 6 years ago. It's been killed twice by wonderful little lady named U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. She's a Republican. She's also a traitor to the United States. She's an enemy of the state, and she's a bitch. And she just killed every one of you twice, and you don't even know it.
Why is she doing this?
She is a never Trumper. And that is a person who, and she said this through her own mouth. You can watch it on YouTube. She said she will never let Trump pass any legislation of any kind while she's in charge.
Jeez.
And think of a little 8-year-old in a schoolyard stamping her feet, waving her arms. You know, never, never, never. So she will never let Trump pass anything. Never mind the legislation she killed just killed you, your family, and all your relatives and everybody.
So
she don't care.
So she's just right. She's putting her foot down. We did see people like that. Never Trump. I mean, that's quite a thing to want to wipe out the entire world just because of Trump. And she's actually a Republican as well. So what can be done about this? So you were going to go to Washington.
Yeah. What happened was I looked at all this and I went, is anybody fighting that that woman back? God Almighty, you just letting her killed the SHIELD Act twice, and now she disbanded the task force on national and homeland security, and now they're scrambling to get that back. And I went, does anybody stand up and fight anymore? So I packed my car. I'm on my way to Washington. I've got a pup tent. I'm going to sit on the White House lawn, and I'm not going to eat or drink a damn thing until I see the President of the United States and, bitch slap him and wake him up because he doesn't even know what I've been telling you. And how do I know that? Because of this. I was getting ready to go, and the EMP Commission on National and Homeland Security, they called me as I was getting ready to go out the door. And he said, David, you really, all your life, you've been doing what we're trying to do. We also know you're a diabetic, type 2 diabetic. You take 5 insulin shots a day. Yeah? So? Well, you're going to stop eating. Yeah? And your point is? Well, we talked to doctors 4 or 5 days max for you, and you go into a diabetic coma, and you will not recover. Yeah? So? And I said, I'm trying to save America. It's worth dying for.
Wow.
And I said, so what? I die. And he said, well, that's what we're going to talk to you about because we think you're a little bit more valuable than just having you kill over in the front White House lawn. I said, well, what are you saying? And he said, would you not go and instead consider taking a position we'd like to give you? I said, what's that? We'd like to make you the national spokesperson of the SHIELD Act. And I sat down. I said, you're doing what? Yeah, we want you to be the national spokesperson for the task force on the SHIELD Act for the Congress. And I went, okay. And I am the national spokesperson of the SHIELD Act.
Now, who was this that told you this?
These are people who were appointed by Congress.
Okay.
They are a bipartisan. Both parties want this. But that damn McCoskey, the way she could shut it down, she is the chairperson, the chairwoman of the Senate subcommittee on the SHIELD Act. Okay. I want to know who in the hell put her in place. That's the people I really want to get hold of their necks.
Can you tell us anybody who is helping you, any specific people?
Oh, God, yeah. Glenn Rose, John McEwen.
Who are they, by the way?
They are... One is the Western Director of the SHIELD Act. The other one is the National Special Projects Coordinator. There is a very large group of people that's running the SHIELD Act. And all you got to do is type in EMP Task Force on National and Homeland Security, and you'll go straight to their website. Mm-hmm. Huge website. Read up on all these people. So there's congressmen, senators of both parties involved in all of this. They're trying desperately to get the SHIELD Act done, but you got idiots like McCoskey, who's doing a never-Trumper thing, and they're playing Russian roulette politics with your lives.
Well, you're a hero for even trying. Of course, there's a link. We're going to show it right now. We're going to show David's website, americasfallfromspace.com, and then there's a Raise the Shield link. And down here, I want to ask David, there's a link, the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, a call to action for America. I'm with David Adair, he's a hero. He's an American hero, and he's the national spokesperson for the SHIELD Act. David, what can we do to, number one, protect ourselves, and number two, how can we get this SHIELD Act passed?
Excellent. The simplest thing for y'all to do, which you haven't done because it's not your fault, you just simply haven't been told. I kind of chewed out politely the task force and told the marketing people they have failed miserably.
Of course.
Because I could ask anybody, heard of SHIELD Act? No. SHIELD Act? No. They don't know how to reach out to the diversity of America. For some reason, I'm one of the most popular persons on YouTube. The task force looked at my numbers of followers. I have 176 million followers, and yet hardly anybody knows anything about me. That's because I don't care. I don't care if you remember my name. I don't care. It ain't about me. But what I do want you to remember is what I'm telling you. And I want you to go look at the task force. And this is a real situation. Now, what can you do to help? Very simple. You do it already. I want you to go to social media. Share, copy, tweet, text, whatever all that stuff y'all do. Hashtag. Definitely hashtag. And what I want you to do is get to a point where every person you meet, you go, instead of saying, for football, how about them dogs? How about that SHIELD Act? And everybody around you is going to know what it is. That's what I want. Social media. You could save your bacon with this. You do it anyhow.
Right.
So start printing it everywhere. Tell everybody to go to the task force website. Look at this stuff. It's real. It's all real, folks.
EMP.
It's real to get.
You're right. EMPtaskforce.us, I think, is their site. And people would Google what? EMP Task Force, correct?
Yeah, on national and homeland security.
And tweet that because your life depends on it. People don't realize
it. Does.
People,
Yeah, you're right. I want everybody to start talking about it.
To bring an awareness to this. Now, what is the SHIELD Act? What will it do when people bring awareness and they call their congressmen, they call their senators, they call the lady in Alaska. What's her name?
Lisa Mikulski.
Call her.
Enemy of the state.
Call her, tell her to vote for it, tell her we'll forgive her if, hopefully, but she needs to vote for this. But what does the SHIELD Act actually do?
The SHIELD Act, in 24 months from the start, and it's all, how much it going to cost you? Nothing. It's already paid for. It's already funded. The way they spend money in Washington, it's nothing. $10 billion already set aside. Well, where'd it come from? Came from national security. It also can come out of the Department of Energy's budget. Do you know how much they get every 12 months? $30 billion. Not MB. $30 billion. So you take $10 billion one time off of them, and you build the SHIELD Act. Takes you 24 months, and what do? You start installing giant surge protectors, Faraday cages, diverters, transformers, special kind transformers. Let me tell you about transformers. There are 1,000 special transformers. They are the size of a 2-story house. And they carry the entire bulk load of electricity to the United States of America. Now, how many spares do we have? None. Can you believe that? None.
No, I can't. Well, maybe I can believe it, given that we're $20 trillion in debt.
Yeah, and you got no spares. Read it up on the damn task force website. There are none. Well, what if you need another one? Where you get it? Well, you put in an order. Well, who builds them? Germany. We don't even build our own damn transformers. Can you believe that?
My gosh.
So we used to. They got farmed out. So how long does it take to build one of them? 2 years. Well, wait a minute. We have 1,000 transformers. Takes 2 years to get a replacement, and we have no spares? Welcome to my world, pal. Yeah, and it's your world. You just don't know it. And that's just the start of the problems. But anyway, to answer your question, $10 billion, 24 months, have everything in, all the Faraday equipment, and where is this brand new technology? Wow, cutting edge Star Trek stuff. Hell no, it's 50 years old. We've been using it in the military since we learned about EMPs from the nuclear test. So it's proven on the ground hardware, and you just install it into the system.
So David
Now,
Adair, let me ask you this:
Yeah.
our final 2 minutes together. What is your message for America as the national spokesperson for the SHIELD Act? And we'd love to have you back again because people need to hear about this over and over again for them to even think it's an issue. Hopefully, before something happens. What's your final message for people today?
There's stuff all over the internet about this. You need to look at what happened to Metcalf, which is PG&E's substation for Silicon Valley. It was attacked. Read up on it. Type it in. Look at it.
How do you spell that?
Metcalf, Metcalf.
Okay.
It happened. You type in this date, April 16th, 2013, and read up on it. And then do this. Type in September 2013 and look at a North Korean ship that was stopped at the Panama Canal. And the reason why they stopped it, they thought it might have been drugs, but the crew was acting weird. So they went up to talk to the captain. They caught him putting a gun barrel in his mouth. He's getting ready to kill him. They tackle him. Then they said, good God, strip this ship. And they do. This is a North Korean ship heading to North Korea coming from Cuba. They remove 100,000 100-pound sacks of sugar. And guess what's laying in the bottom of it?
What's that?
2 SS-4 Soviet missiles with their launchers. They are perfect. They are
EMP
perfect
weapons?
for it. Yes.
So what should people should go to americasfallfromspace.com. I'm going to show it to them right now, David, and I'm going to let you rest. My God, we've had a great interview. I'm going right now. americasfallfromspace.com. Raise the shield, and we should share this right now. This, you can read the SHIELD Act and then also share this link here, which is the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, a call to action for America. Share that with your friends. We're going to have David back again. David Adair is a hero. Buy his DVD. Not only that, David, I think he would actually rather, I think you should buy, I'm going to buy his DVD, but I think he would rather have you share this damn SHIELD Act stuff so we don't get blown to smithereens. And
absolutely.
David, it's been an honor to have you. Our website is believe.love, where you can watch this interview again. Feel David's urgency and energy to get this stuff done. Our website's believe.love. Our YouTube is youtube.com/believe loves you. iTunes, believeitunes.com. Android, believeandroid.com. David, I know we have some unfinished business as we grow, and we'd like to help you with your free energy, with getting the SHIELD Act. I'm going to mention it even on shows you're not here so that people can become aware. And it's been an honor to have you on the show today, David. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day or night wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us on Believe.